Okay, so this is a review of the overall render process. So um, first step, I have a box and a plane and a sky dome, and if I scroll back and forth, I can see my tiny little animation. I have said file, set project, and I've set my project to this my folder. And I have run a test render by clicking on the clapboard and seeing what that render looks like. So I know I'm all set and ready to go. And so then I'm going to, now what I want to do is set up the render settings. So here, the first thing you're going to do is click on Arnold, and you want to go down the main set of options. So I've chosen to render EXRs, but you could do PNGs or JPEGs. JPEGs won't have an alpha channel, but the PNG will. I have selected name number extension so that it's going to render more than one frame with a frame padding of 4. I've told it the range, which is by default 1 to 10, but that's all I've got right here. So I selected 1 to 10, but this could be 1 to 60 or 60 to 200 or whatever you need it to be. I made sure that my renderable camera is now my camera 1, not perspective camera. And I'm going to leave this at HD 540, although you should render at least at HD 1080, but 540 just for my laptop right now to go fast. So I'm going to say close. So now what I want to do is set up the other render layers. So for the other render layers, I'm going to click on it's a clapboard with 2 little layers underneath it, and go through the render setup. So by default, it will just render this layer. This is what you're getting when you do the test. It's kind of just a nice beauty pass, but you really can't control it. So what I want to do is build some render layers that I can control. So first render layer, I'm going to call this main render layer. I'm going to right click and say create collection, and everybody goes in there. The 2 pieces of geometry and the sky dome, middle mouse click and drag, and drop them in there, or you could click add. And now I'm going to switch over to this is my main render layer, and I'm going to deselect this layer because I don't want this one to render. Anywhere the clapboard is selected, that's the renderable layers. Let's just do a test. It should look the same, and it does. So now I need to set up 2 more layers. The first one being the ambient occlusion this is for the ambient occlusion shadows, so right-click, create collection, right-click again, right-click again, and say create shader override, and then I'm going to click on the little clapboard over here and select under Arnold shaders ambient occlusion, and I'm then going to change over to view this render layer, which should all be gray. Oops, wait a minute, obviously not gray yet because nobody's in the collection. So I need to add a couple of things to the collection. I need both pieces of geometry added to the collection. And now it turned red because it would like you to update to make sure, so we update, and here we go, let's render that. There we go. So now I have an ambient occlusion layer there. Perfect. All right, so final is the matte layer, and I want to matte out the box. Because I want to be able to do add special effects to the box inside of After Effects, so I should be able to get to that separate from all the other elements. So I'm going to create another collection. I'm going to call this box matte. Right click, create collection. That collection is going to get just the cube. I'm going to right click on that and say create shader override. Click on that clapboard again and just add a surface shader. So now I'm going to switch over. My AO layer is doing funny things here, so I just want to click on that to update it. I'm going to step back just for a second and render that again to make sure that it is what I want it to be. Okay, I'm not sure why it was asking to be updated. All right, so back down to the box layer. The cube has been added, and the shader that I'm asking it is a surface shader, so I want to click on here to make sure that I'm getting that surface shader. And the out color for the box needs to be white. So let's select this as a viewable layer, and you can see the box is white. But what I want is not just the box being white. I want the everything else to be black, and that might include things that are in the foreground in front of it. But right now we just have a plane that's behind it. So I'm going to right-click and say Create Collection. I'm going to grab the plane, drop that in there. I'm going to right-click and say Create Shader Override, and now all I need to do is just add a surface shader because it's black. And then I'll update. So I'm going to render, and I render, and I see that the ground plane is black and the box is white, but so is the sky dome. And I did not say anything about the sky dome in these layers, but it just comes in by default. If we go back to the main render layer, you can see that if I render again, the white of this white back here is not an alpha channel. The sky dome is there. So what we need to do is get rid of that sky dome. And the way to do that is to select the sky dome, go to its attributes, scroll down to where you see visibility, and take the camera to 0. So now, under the main render layer, the sky is gone. And under the box render layer, the sky is gone. And you know, so the ground, everything black is now will be able to be alpha'd out. So this is the RGB channel. What I'm looking for is the alpha channel. What does the alpha look like? And you can see what the alpha looks like. The alpha is the black that's right there, right? This is all geometry. So sometimes it's hard in the matte layer to see what's the black and what's the alpha channel. But if you click on the alpha button there, it will show you that. Sometimes in different versions of Maya, that you click on this RGB channel thing a couple of times and the alpha comes up. So just note that for different versions, it might be a little bit different where to find the alpha channel. The last thing I was just going to show is that under the occlusion again, if we render that, that it has an alpha, but I think it always has an alpha. The sky dome does not get added as part of, it can't be part of the ambient occlusion layer. Okay, so close that out. Finally, the final step is to now render all this, and to do that, we have our render setups. So we're going to go to the rendering menu set, go to render sequence, and select the option box. Make sure that your current camera is the current camera. All render enabled layers, you want that. All render enabled cameras, we only have one camera, so we don't need this. However, if you've got multiple cameras for the shot, you would turn that on. And you would set up those you'd make sure both of those cameras are added here. And you can add renderable cameras underneath this menu, so you would add another camera underneath here if you had it. And now when I hit render sequence, it's just going to run through these and create folders in my images folder. So render sequence. Okay, so if we close that out, go to Finder, You see under the images folder, I've got 3 different render folders, and my 1 through 10 is in each one of those. The first thing I'm going to do is go into this, create a new folder, and call this scene 1, shot 1, grab 3, put them in there, and probably then move this out to an editing folder also that's away from the production folder. But that's a matter of your own process. So that sets everything up, and that should give you everything you need to do a complete render.